The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead, casting their familiar glow across the empty diner. Outside, the city slept under a blanket of darkness, but inside Ruby's all-night diner, life moved at its own gentle pace. The chrome surfaces gleamed under the warm light, and the red vinyl booths sat ready for the occasional late-night traveler or insomniac seeking comfort in coffee and conversation. Sarah wiped down the counter with practiced ease, her blonde hair catching the light as she moved. She had been working the night shift at Ruby's for 3 years now, and the rhythm of these quiet hours had become as natural as breathing. The soft clink of dishes, the gentle hiss of the coffee machine, the distant hum of traffic on the highway, these sounds were the soundtrack to her nights. At the far end of the counter sat Jake, a regular who had been coming in every Tuesday night for the past 6 months. His weathered hands wrapped around a steaming mug of black coffee, and his tired eyes gazed out the window at the empty parking lot. Sarah had learned not to ask too many questions about her late-night customers. Everyone who found their way to Ruby's at this hour carried their own story, their own reasons for being awake when the rest of the world slumbered. "Another refill?" Sarah asked softly, approaching with the coffee pot. Jake nodded, pushing his mug toward her. "Thanks, Sarah. You're always so kind." She poured the dark liquid carefully, steam rising between them like a gentle curtain. "Long night ahead." "Every night's long when you can't sleep," Jake replied, his voice carrying the weight of exhaustion. "But sitting here helps. Makes me feel less alone." Sarah understood that feeling all too well. The night shift could be lonely, but it also created a special bond between the people who inhabited these quiet hours together. She had chosen this schedule deliberately, finding peace in the stillness that daylight never offered her. The bell above the door chimed softly, and both Sarah and Jake turned to see a young woman enter. She moved slowly, uncertainly, her clothes wrinkled as if she had been traveling for hours. Her dark hair fell around her shoulders like a protective veil, and her eyes held the distant look of someone who had been driving through the night with no particular destination in mind. "Good evening," Sarah called out gently. "Sit anywhere you'd like." The woman chose a booth near the window, sliding onto the red vinyl with a sigh that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her soul. Sarah waited a moment before approaching, giving her time to settle. "What can I get you tonight?" Sarah asked, her voice warm and welcoming. "Just coffee, please," the woman replied. "And maybe some toast. I haven't eaten much today." As Sarah moved to prepare the order, she noticed Jake watching the newcomer with concern. There was something about late-night diners that made people more aware of each other's pain, more willing to reach out to strangers who might be struggling. The coffee brewed with its familiar gurgle, filling the air with rich aroma. Sarah buttered 2 slices of bread and slid them into the toaster, the mechanical hum adding to the diner's gentle symphony. These simple tasks had become meditation for her, each movement purposeful and calming. When she brought the coffee and toast to the woman's table, she noticed tears glistening in her eyes. "Are you all right, honey?" Sarah asked, setting down the plate carefully. The woman looked up, surprised by the kindness in a stranger's voice. "I'm sorry. I don't usually. I'm fine. Just tired." Sarah nodded understandingly. "We all get tired sometimes. Take your time." As Sarah returned to her duties, she watched both of her customers. From the corner of her eye, Jake continued to sip his coffee slowly, occasionally glancing toward the woman in the booth. The woman picked at her toast absently, staring out at the darkness beyond the window. The night wore on quietly. Sarah refilled Jake's cup twice more, and the woman eventually ordered a bowl of soup. The 3 of them existed in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts but somehow connected by their shared presence in this small island of light and warmth. Around 3 in the morning, Jake stood up and walked over to the woman's booth. Sarah watched as he spoke to her quietly, his voice too low to hear but his manner gentle and respectful. The woman looked surprised at first, then nodded, and Jake slid into the seat across from her. Sarah couldn't hear their conversation, but she could see the gradual change in both of them. The woman's shoulders relaxed slightly, and Jake's tired eyes seemed to brighten. They talked for nearly an hour, sharing stories and finding common ground in their late-night wanderings. When Jake finally returned to his spot at the counter, the woman looked different, less lost, more grounded. She caught Sarah's eye and smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her entire face. "He told me about this place," the woman said when Sarah came over to refill her coffee. How you've been here for years, taking care of night owls like us. He said you're like a guardian angel for people who can't sleep. Sarah felt warmth spread through her chest. I just make coffee and listen when people need to talk. That's more than you might think, the woman replied. I've been driving for 2 days, trying to figure out what to do with my life. Sitting here tonight, talking to Jake, drinking your coffee, it's the first time I've felt peaceful in months. The eastern horizon began to show the faint blush of dawn as the woman prepared to leave. She paid her bill and left a generous tip, but more importantly, she left something behind, the heavy sadness that had clung to her when she first walked through the door. Jake remained at the counter as the morning shift began to arrive. Sarah untied her apron and gathered her things, ready to head home for some much-needed rest. Thank you, Jake said as she prepared to leave, for creating this place where people can find each other. I just work here, Sarah replied modestly. No, Jake shook his head. You do much more than that. You make this feel like home for people who forgot what home feels like. As Sarah walked to her car in the growing light of dawn, she reflected on the night that was ending. She had witnessed something beautiful, two lonely souls finding connection and comfort in the most unlikely place. This was why she loved the night shift, why she chose to spend her evenings in this fluorescent-lit sanctuary. The city was beginning to wake up around her, but Sarah felt the familiar satisfaction of a night well spent. She had served coffee and food, but more importantly, she had been present for people who needed to know they weren't alone. In a world that often moved too fast and felt too cold, Ruby's all-night diner remained a constant, a place where time moved slowly, where kindness mattered, and where strangers could become friends over a simple cup of coffee. As she drove home through the quiet streets, Sarah already looked forward to returning that evening. There would be new faces seeking refuge in the warm light of the diner, and she would be there to welcome them, one cup of coffee at a time.